Hello everyone, my name is Harisu Abdullahi. I'm from Victoria University of Wellington, and I'll be presenting this paper with the title Lateralized Approach for Robustness Against Attacks in Emotion Categorization from Images. So I came into the lab today and I saw a man smiling at me, and I was worried it was because I put my shirt upside down, but I wasn't sure what the smiling was about, and I needed to recognize that. But the question here is, how can we recognize people's emotion? So to begin with, significant effort has been made in developing categorization method of human facial expression. And one of the reasons behind that is with the increasing demand to introduce robots into shared workspaces like hotels or retail stores, as these robots need to understand people's emotion to be able to interact with in an intuitive way, as well as to enhance customer experience. So much research carried out in emotion categorization nowadays are carried out using deep learning algorithms. While these deep learning algorithms have achieved high performance results in many classification methods, so including emotion categorization, their homogeneous representation of knowledge made them vulnerable to adversarial attacks. On the other hand, we know that biological intelligence supports heterogeneity, and it has been hypothesized that the lateral asymmetry of the vertebrate brain support learning of information at different levels of abstraction, that is at the constituent level, at the holistic level. For instance, the left hemisphere of vertebrate brain support learning of information at elementary level, whereas the right hemisphere process learning of information at a higher level of abstraction. This is valid in right-hand individuals. It might click in left-hand individuals, but the main thing is just like these are all like heterogeneous. And this heterogeneous nature has been proven beneficial at handling noisy data in visual classification system. However, it is unknown if visual classification system will function in emotion categorization system. So this is an example of a homogeneous network. As you can see, all the things are represented the same. But in a heterogeneous network, things are represented differently. And not only that things can be represented differently, they can also be represented like independent from one another in a heterogeneous network. As we know that emotion is actually a heterogeneous problem because in emotion, the pixel in any part of the face is more important than the pixel in any part of the background of the image. For example, like the pixel of, even in the face, the pixel of maybe the mouth is more important than the pixel of the nose. So assuming these two networks, this is an input image that is given to both these two networks to classify. Both of these networks will probably classify this image correctly because they all have knowledge of these black nodes, two black nodes connected together. However, if this is an input network, if this is an input image given to both these two networks to classify, the first network will probably have a lower chance of classifying this image because it doesn't have any knowledge of orange color. And this change is what we call an adversarial attack. So the aim of this work is to develop a lateralized method for emotion categorization that will be robust against adversarial attacks. And as the lateralized system is heterogeneous, it is anticipated that the method will achieve a much higher accuracy than compared to a homogeneous network. So this is an overview of the lateralized system, and I'll be explaining each block separately. So, for example, this is the context phase. In the context phase, there are two parts. So this is the first part. The first part consists of a full of deep networks. So each deep network classify each of these parts. For example, one for mouth, nose, eyes, jaw, and face. And the prediction of this context phase is like the probability that we get from each of these deep networks. And at the end, we have to calculate the summation of all the probabilities and find the likelihood. So the likelihood is the maximum. After adding all the probabilities, the class with the highest number will be our constituent level likelihood. this case. And in the other side, we have the holistic level likelihood, and this is the formula we use to calculate it because it only consists of a single deep network which takes the original image, that's the full image as an input. So this is the formula we use to calculate it. So the maximum, the class that is being classified with the maximum accuracy is the assigned class. And after these classifications, we have, after we get the prediction from the constituent level and the holistic level likelihood, we will come to this stage where we'll analyze the feedback. If the two networks, like the constituent level and the holistic level, agree with each other, then the network will be confident and it will inhibit. There is no need to continue. Otherwise, it will excite and we will move to the attention phase. And at the attention phase, we calculate the distance using the learning classifier system, and I'll explain how we are calculating these distances. And we also have another models which also uses learning classifier system and calculate the overall prediction, and then we get the final prediction at the end. So at the context phase, as I said, it consists of a deep network, which is an end-to-end learning. It does the feature extraction, so we don't need anything to extract the features. We just feed the images, and then the network will classify that. And the overall prediction is the summation of holistic level likelihood and the constituent level likelihood. So we have at the attention phase, as I said, also we have the learning classifier system. So the learning classifier system is a rule-based method which I use to solve complex problems, and it actually consists of a set of rules rather than a single classifier. So, and it combines learning component with GA. So here we are using supervised learning classifier system because we know the labels of images rather than unsupervised, because we can use either unsupervised or reinforcement as well. So the constituent level, since it is not end-to-end learning, we extract the features. The features that we extract are histogram-oriented gradient features of each of the parts fit to the model. But then here we just use the histogram-oriented gradient because it has proven to give a higher performance in many research papers, but any feature can be used here. And the holistic features are distances. And so the distances are like calculated like using the facial landmarks. So this is an example of image with the facial landmark detected on it. So as you can see, these facial landmarks are actually just the position where the face is located in the image. However, as you can see here in this image, while the image of the participant in A and the image of the participant in B are both anger expressions, the image of the participant in A is shifted more to the left, whereas the image of the participant in B is shifted more to the right. So we might be misled actually by this if we only take the position. So for that reason, we assign the nose as the center of the face, and we find the distance of each coordinate to the center, and that is the distance we use. We fit the learning classifier system. So for the attacks, we create some obfuscate changes. We made some obfuscate changes to the images. So the first one is the wrapper, after which we add sunglasses to the image. There's another one, which is hybrid attack, which we just changed the foreground color of the image. And then the last one just combined two attacks, and that is the hybrid attack, which add both sunglasses and change just the foreground color of the image. So for the experiment is performed in CK+ database, and as an example of a homogeneous network, we use VGG19 as it is a well-suited standard model and has been proven to achieve a high performance also. So for the heterogeneous network, it's our proposed method, which is a lateralized system. So we use a combination of different parts for our experiments. The first one is lateral all, which comprises of all the constituent parts like eyes, face, jaw, mouth, and nose. And lateral anecdotal, is just like comprised of jaw, mouth, and face. These parts are just taken as we believe that this part anecdotally contributes to emotion categorization. And the last one is lateral sense, which consists of the three sense organs of the face, which are also believed to contribute to emotion categorization, as we have seen in previous research in the literature. So we also perform ANOVA analysis before doing any testing, and we find significance of interaction before it. So we adjusted the alpha level to 0.017 rather than the 0.05 that is normally being used for the post-hoc analysis. So these are the results that we obtained. So for the original image, these letters actually just represent the significance of the method. So same letters means there's no significant difference, but then different letters means there's significant difference. And you may see that the y-axis it starts from 90. The y-axis has adjusted just for visualization purposes. So on the original image, all the networks actually, as you can see, only the lateral segment achieve a little bit higher accuracy than compared to the other methods, but then that is also not significant. But then when a distractor attack has been launched, as you can see, the accuracy of the VGG19 model is really low. But then the lateral all and the lateral anecdotal are able to achieve a high accuracy with significant difference. And for the rapid attack also, all the lateralized method achieve a significantly higher accuracy than the VGG19 model, as well so as the hybrid attack also. All the lateralized method achieve significantly better results than the VGG19. That's the homogeneous network. So interpretation of decision. So for example, this is a sample image from the CK plus database. And this image is classified as 100% happy by the holistic level perception. And the constituent level perception classify the mouth as 99.99% happy and 0.01% anger, whereas the nose is classified as 99.99% happy and then 0.01% disgust. The eyes is also classified as happy, as you can see with the higher accuracy here. So both this network here, the constituent level and the holistic level agree with each other. So we don't need to proceed in this case, we can just interpret. So on the other hand, this image, this is after the same image, but after applying the hybrid attack, the holistic level of perception got confused and classified this image, which as discussed with 99.9% confidence and 0.1% sad. And the constituent level perception classified the image as happy with 99.68% happy and 0.32% anger. The nose is classified as disgust with 99.99% confidence, and the eyes is classified as sad with 49.91% sad, 44.68% happy, and then 5.41% disgust. So after adding all this, the holistic level likelihood is like 99.9% disgust, whereas the constituent level likelihood is 144.36% happy. So as you can see here, the holistic level likelihood and the constituent level likelihood do not agree with each other. So we're moving to the attention phase in this case. And at the attention phase, the supervised learning classifier system classified the mouth as 100% happy, whereas no match rule was planned for both the eyes and the nose. And the distance is classified as disgust by the UCS. And then the overall prediction here, you can see, is happy with 169.36 likelihood. So although some of the models like in the lateralized system are classified in the wrong way, the overall prediction, as you can see, give us the correct prediction. So in conclusion, we developed a lateralized system to categorize emotion from images, and it has shown to significantly outperform the homogeneous VGG1 model in most cases. And the transparent nature of the lateralized system of the UCS, that's the line classifier system, tells us that happiness can be perceived from the mouth rather than nose or eyes, as you can see here that only happy is being able to, because the line classifier system was only able to recognize happiness, but couldn't even find material for nose and eyes here. And in general, it is worth improving the robustness and end-to-end learning model by the lateralized system, as the loss experienced by these models has shown to be significant. Thank you for listening. And if you have any questions.
Well, thank you very much for the presentation. Are there any questions in the room? Apparently not. So I can start with the questions if you want.
Yeah, sure.
I'm not sure if I understood correctly your definition or your difference between heterogeneous and homogeneous networks, because when you mentioned homogeneous networks, you associated that with deep learning in a label in the slide. But as far as I understand, there are many deep learning models like GANs, for instance, that combine discriminators, generators that can be very different in nature. And in fact, GANs are also adversarial approaches. Could you comment a bit on that, please?
Yeah, so this one, actually, in this work, mainly what we finally just stop sharing because I. Okay. So in this work, what we meant by the homogeneous is like end-to-end deep learning model, and so you just feed the network, and then it will just do the feature extraction as well as the classification task. But then there are other deep models that also kind of concentrate on extracting features like in different by like kind of concentrating on different parts of the image. So this here actually what we are referring to is like end-to-end, which performs like both feature extraction as well as.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And sorry for my misunderstanding about the point. Okay.
No,
and well, a couple of more questions from my side. I don't know if anybody has any kind of question, not so far. So another question I will have is why in the attention phase you didn't use deep features, for instance, that are known as very useful in many applications?
Sorry, you said why we didn't use what?
Deep features. I don't know, features extracted instead of hog, use the features extracted from BGG or ResNet or. Yeah,
we can use any features actually there. It won't make any difference. But we just decided to use the HOG features because we've already used the deep model like in the context phase to extract features. So we don't want to use the same features because these are considered as different models and independent network. So that's why we decided to. But any other feature can be used actually.
Okay, yeah. No, I was asking mainly for the reason about why not to use deep features, but you have explained it right now. Okay. And if I'm not mistaken, in one of the last, in the feature works, you mentioned go for an end-to-end approach, right?
Sorry.
In the feature works you mentioned at the end, in the conclusions, you also plan to go for an end-to-end approach.
No, I'm saying like it is beneficial to improve the robustness of an end-to-end approach.
Okay, sorry. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So from my side, well, there's one question. Can you clarify the contribution of the evolutionary computation component in this work? Is one question we have in the chat.
The evolutionary computation component here is the learning classifier system, actually, because it combines learning classifier, it combines genetic algorithm. Also, it uses a genetic algorithm. So the learning classifier system here, as you can see, what we learn from the learning classifier system here, from the attention phase, it kind of tells us like the, for example, happiness can be perceived from the mouth rather than nose or eyes, things like that. So yeah, that's
okay. Well, thank you for the question and for your response. We have another question here.
yeah.
Might have missed it, apologies if that is the case, but what adversarial attacks did you consider in the analysis? Thank you.
Well, actually, adversarial attack is like anything that you can add to the input image just to confuse the model to misclassify the input image. So here, normally there is black box and then there is white box adversarial attack. So white box is, if you know the model, you can use either like the FGSM, that's the first gradient sign method, adversarial attack. But here, we assume that the adversary does not have any knowledge of the model. So it is a black box adversarial attack. So we just try to make something by changing the appearance of the image. The fact that we change the foreground color of the image or we add sunglasses to the image doesn't mean that the emotion of the image is changed. We just want to clarify that, okay, the emotion of the image is still happiness, but then the network should not misclassify the image just because some additional things like maybe sunglasses or maybe the color has been changed, because that is not emotion. Emotion is not based on color. It's like, it's not based on color, it's based on the expression of the image. So we consider black box adversarial attack in short.
Well, thank you very much. I don't know if there are further questions. No? Okay, so we thank the speaker. Thank you very much for the very nice talk.